my skin. Only add color to my tears. Oh.
Okay, peace and blessings. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, friends and enemies, thank you all for coming out here and being brave enough to see what this crazy journey is all about. Basically, does anyone think that if black cops were shooting white folks in the same exact manner, the same exact frequency, that we would have the same exact results?
No. Absolutely not.
Anyone to the affirmative? Anyone to the affirmative? I've been asking this question from Ferguson, St. Louis, to New York, to Cuba. I haven't found a yes yet. So if we have no yeses, that means that we realize that we have two different systems for two different groups of people. And it looks like as if we're on the same page. Before we get started, I want to make sure that everyone knows that this is a production that will be on stage. I'm very grateful that you're here in the infancy. Before it becomes big and ticket prices go up, and I'm really charging to the 1% that needs to hear this. But tonight we're going to pass around some information. I would like for you to think of a word, whatever word comes to your mind in the course of the evening that you think resonates with you. Please limit your responses to one because I have a free account that's limited to an X amount of responses. So text whatever word that resonates with you and your spirit. It's confidential. I don't know who it comes from. We're going to create a word cloud at the end of the production and it's going to go up on the screen, okay? So every show has their own fingerprint, I should say, all right? So if you want to use certain words, white folks, and you want to say the N-word, that's fine. Get it off your chest. Don't say it to me. You know, you can put it in your phone. You know, black folks, you want to say something to white folks, don't say it to them, but you put it in your phone. You know, get it off your chest. All right, because the fact of the matter is, we are in this together, and so therefore we're going to have to work together some way, somehow. Because if black folks, after all we've been through, we still here, obviously it's apparent that we ain't going nowhere. All right? All right, so rub your hands together, give me some energy. Thank you for coming out. Here we go. H. Rod Brown edition of the Grinch Stole Christmas. Guerrilla poetry, classic transition. Black, unapologetic, never asked for permission. Crisis intervention, clairvoyant intuition. Ghetto, inspired ambition. In a maze of misery, violence and poverty, search for happy feelings, cracking glass ceilings. But wars eat children. White men make a killing. Monumental stealing. More profit for the willing and gentrified buildings. Post-2012, still standing in the garden with banana pillars. With no hard feelings. Intuition, a certain immersion of soul to the universal current of light satellite television. Born in the park after dark in the South Bronx between break beats and turntables. Stolen lights and stolen cable. Caribbean moons and earthquakes, African hurricanes. Dirt cookies for hunger pains. Sharp instruments for other things. No acceptable change is improvement. Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. So we don't stop like supply lines of Palestinian tunnels. Ain't no wonder why we write. Because we believe the human spirit cannot be tamed, should not be trained. Before it was a game, it was a struggle. But life's a bubble. So we live like a bootleg liquor on Sunday night. The art of mixing reality with the sacred and profane. The definition of sin is doing the same goddamn thing. Expecting change. Proceed with caution. Talk to angels often. Prefer cremations of coffins. And until such time, Jesus is as fake as grand juries and Santa Claus. And the devil is as real as killer cops, non-indictments, and taxes. As we search for justice, bail money, or matches. Now I think the alchemy. All right, thank you. The name of this piece is called Whites Only. And apparently some of y'all think y'all passing for white. Either that or you don't read. Fill in the blank. Blank, don't read. What's the first word come to your mind?
Idiots.
According to your social or racial background would pretty much determine that response. going to say this first, let me apologize. It's not the exact setup I would like to read my pieces from, so I'm going to work with that. All right, so let me get this off my chest real quick. Calling me an angry black man as if it's derogatory, it's like telling a whole bunch of gay dudes to suck a dick and expecting all of them to be offended, all right? So let's get that out of the way. Nevertheless, it is lonely being an angry black man in therapy. Not just because of a system of injustice that enslaved my ancestors and stolen land for 100 years, impeding their development, destroying cultures, language, family, raping generations of women to create everything from chalk to charcoal within my own race, replacing that with second-class citizenship, colonialization, American apartheid, lynchings, black codes, chain gangs, sharecroppers, ghettos, police brutality, redlining, redistricting, drug wars, chemical warfare, biological warfare, spiritual warfare, urban renewal, urban removal, gentrification. Permanent underclass, the largest prison system in the entire world, filled with killer cops supported by rigged grand juries to let them run free, and of course, reality TV. But despite all that, somehow, people still expect my black ass to smile like Bojangles. But really though, it's lonely being an angry black man in therapy simply because I don't date black women. Usually someone says something, maybe y'all let that ride. Y'all let that ride. Y'all let that ride. You know, Wesley Snipes, y'all let that ride. I don't date black women with track, weaves, or hair extensions. I mean, I might still fuck with you, you know, if you got a perm, but as long as you don't wear that, you know, 24/7 white girl ponytail thing, you know, exclusively, you know. But, you know, that's really half of the black women population, and a good portion of the other half is just simply too big for me, so that leaves a very small pool to choose from. Right? Now, as you may have imagined, I have been readily accused of being superficial. Me. Really? The guy that wants a woman to love her true self, her natural self. I'm superficial. Not the chick that buys fake eyelashes, fake nails, fake hair, and now sometimes even fake titties and fake asses. Pun intended. No. They are not superficial at all. They are merely exercising their right to succumb to the very real self-imposed ideology to the westernized standards of what beauty is supposed to be in a white supremacist capitalist system. I'm just willing to voice my opinion at the risk of missing out on a whole lot of pussy, and by simply saying that this shit is killing me, just like it did Kanye West mama. Now, just to be fair, I even tried to date a sister with a couple years ago with a weed. I thought, I could be like a positive influence on her, convert her ass. And she had a very nice ass, mind you. So we go out, we have a conversation about how we love to see her real hair, and that she doesn't need this to be beautiful, etc., etc. Now we dancing, drinks, yada yada, conversations, and I finally get over back to my place. I'm putting the moves on. Yeah, baby. And she says those magic words to me. Don't touch my head. I said, baby, I wish I could touch your head. Why I say that shit? She hops up off the bed, butt naked, and she's looking forward to, that's it, I had enough of your shit. Keep talking about my shit. I'm out. And I'm like, baby, come on. Can we talk about this later? Things come on. Ain't nothing worse than chasing a butt naked woman, getting dressed, who's cussing you out, and you left alone with your politics and an erection. Man, you may ask, I feel sorry for you, but what does that have to do with racism and white supremacy? That's very white of you. Because black people and every other person of color on this entire planet have been taught, trained, and conditioned to hate their natural selves and feel compelled to assimilate by buying Eurocentric products that minimizes their blackness. There's nothing black in a beauty store. You can always be too black, but you can never be too white. Hot combs, perms, weaves, bleach cream, Michael Jackson, Sammy Sosa, Lil' Kim, etc., etc. by white society and to themselves. So in the words of Chuck D, yes! I blame all y'all cracker asses for fucking up my goddamn sex life. But of course, as in life, there are very few absolutes and very many gray areas. The truth is, now I can't be truthful with y'all here, right? Okay, it's just between me. It's between me and you, all right? I mean, this is true, sir. This is true, sir. All right? And this blood of Jesus is working. Now, always remember, a drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts. The truth is, I didn't even perform oral sex until I was 28 years old. Yes, ladies, I know. But I assure you, I'm not a heartless and selfish man. I'm just a late bloomer, which makes me a very young old man. Please believe me. I would like to take this time to apologize to everyone, especially 4 deserving young women. I will call their name out. Not that I give a shit about their husbands or current relationships, I just don't remember all their names. But I do remember who they are, and they know who they are, so more importantly. And one does stick out, and her name is Swahili for Angel. Shout out. All right. So for 28 years, I was strictly addicted. That's right, 68, and I owe you one. I even had a beautiful poet teach me how to do it the right way. But I'm a firm believer that you never stop learning. But you know what? Out of those 4 women, there's another sister that sticks out in my mind. The 4th deserving women, or one of the 4 deserving women I dated, she was like extremely claustrophobic. I'm not talking about just freaking out small spaces. Like she could even use a bathroom with the door closed. Okay, so. But you know, at first I thought it was kind of cute, you know, when she pissed in front of me. I still kind of enjoy that, you know, when a woman's comfortable enough to piss in front of you. And I just like the sound of it. Like a woman urinating, it's kind of like, you know, fake ass bottled water commercials, you know, spring water commercials and shit. And then by the way, if it ain't alkaline water, fuck bottled water, by the way. But a dude pissing, you know, sound like black people been sprayed with a water hose. You know what I mean? You know, totally different. So anyway, like I said, pissing in front of me, no problem. But ultimately, she had, you know, to do the business, you know, get it done. All right. So, you know, I gave her some space, but the door is open. So, you know, the sound, the smell, you know. And then she wants to come into the bedroom and initiate sex with me. I'm like, whoa, snap. Like, you know, you need to wash your ass and do something. I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? She's like, do I stink? I'm like, you just took a shit. She's like, I know how to wipe my ass. I'm like, exactly. Wiping your ass only prevents shit stains in your drawers. It's not a bidet. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm gonna make it clap and you can feces is particles in the air. You know? And word one, if you flush the toilet with the seat up, it sprays feces particles in the bathroom. In fact, a lot of people's toothbrushes have feces particles in them, which is probably why a lot of people's breath smell like shit. You know. She like, I didn't know that. I said, exactly, which is why I'm not going to be fucking with her unless she washes her ass, right? But then, you know, she started crying and shit. I'm like, what kind of sentimental bullshit is this? And then she goes on to tell me why she really was claustrophobic. She called a cab one night with a girlfriend coming home from a club. And the driver asked her, would they mind if he picked up another fare? The cab was small, but they were like, sure, no problem. Because, you know, black people are just grateful whenever a cab stops with their black ass. This is before, you know, Uber changed the game. So anyway, the cab picks up this drunk white dude. Now, instead of respecting the space and getting the front passenger seat, he squeezes in the back with her and her girlfriend. At first they thought it was kind of funny because he was a clean-cut white guy with a suit and tie. And most importantly, he offered to pay the full fare for the intrusion. until he started coming on to them aggressively. He started rubbing on one thigh and tried to put his face in the other's blouse, and they fought him off and screamed for the cab driver to stop, but the guy told the driver that he paid for these hookers and threw money at him and ordered him to keep driving. And he did. By this time, her friend decided she had enough and jumped out of the car while I was still sitting at a red light. But the guy had my friend by her wrist, and she couldn't move. And he told her as he shook her, "I thought all you nigga bitches liked it rough." She screamed so hard she pissed on herself while he was still on top of her. Probably the only thing that stopped him from raping her. So the white guy arrives at his destination, pays an additional tip to clean the cab, wipes his wet, pissy-ass hands in her hair, and says, "It looks like nappy hair is actually good for something." And he left her there in a pool of tears and urine behind plexiglass, balled up in the backseat of a small cab, still crying. So now, there she was, laying in my bed in another pool of tears and possibly feces particles. And even without sex, holding her funky, claustrophobic, nappy-headed ass in my arms, shit never felt so good. Look at you, little piece of shit. You ain't shit. You ain't gonna be shit. You ain't gonna do shit. Your mama ain't shit. Your dad ain't shit. You ain't gonna be shit. You ain't Hey, I don't want no shit. America creates monsters. I'm not just talking about the fact that crack in America, the CIA, created Al-Qaeda, probably ISIS, the war on drugs, the crack epidemic, Hollywood, etc., etc. I'm talking about white people's fascination with horror movies, like serial killers, Frankenstein, werewolves, vampires, zombies, warlocks, demons, aliens, mummies. Well, okay, Africans created mummies, but y'all motherfuckers turned into monsters. Now, it occurred to me after a long night of truth serum, touche, what do monsters do? They terrorize people. Now ask yourself, honestly, ask yourself, who are the terrorists and what do they look like? Who are labeling them terrorists and what do they look like? Did you know that Harriet Tubman and Nelson Mandela were both labeled terrorists? Today, Ashada Shakur with a $2 million bounty on her head in Cuba is called a terrorist for allegedly killing one cop. Cops kill niggas all day, every day. With your support. Are you aiding and abetting terrorists? But who has terrorized more people on this planet Earth in the past 500 years than any other group? Be honest. You can always be too black, but you can never be too white. Now you may sit there and say, well, we don't strap bombs to ourselves and blow up people. That's mighty white of you. You don't have to. Of course not. Not when you have planes, helicopters, satellites, drones, assassination Tuesdays, and the largest military budget in the entire world combined, where you can push buttons from miles away, incurring collateral damage and civilian casualties, including children. Must you be reminded that war itself is an act of terrorism. And who starts wars? World wars. And it's not even a real world war, it's just a couple countries, non-black of course, fighting wars and then declare themselves, we are the world, we are the children, we are the ones that make a brighter day, so let's start giving to the national defense budget. Who invented and have used nuclear weapons capable of destroying the entire planet? Who has bombed and firebombed cities with civilians in it? Who has oppressed people all around the globe? Who has military bases all around the globe? Who has invaded countries all around the globe? Who has polluted the planet all around the globe? Who has committed the greatest acts of genocide all around the globe? So, here's my theory. I think white people need to create monsters to convince themselves that they are not actually the monsters. Just like a lot of powerful white men get off sexually being beaten and some sadistic foreplay that somehow compensates them for the internal guilt of the blood spilt for their sinful white privilege. They need to deflect the scorn of their actions by painting everyone else as villains to keep the weight off of them. So every time a cop kills an unarmed black person, it's because he claims he was scared. In fear of his own life. So he has the right to take yours. Black lives don't matter because he got the gun, bulletproof vest, backup, and the law, but because he's scared, hasta la vista, baby. As if black people are not scared every time they encounter police. But fear is not a reason to take someone's life. Otherwise, police will get shot all the time. But it has occurred to me that many well-intended white folks are not racist themselves at all. Even though they continue to benefit from a racist system or are part of the ruling class with their own set of prejudices, like parking while white. They simply do not know what it means to be black in America. They think if you just beat on your mother's kitchen table, mumble to yourself long enough and sell a whole bunch of crap, you can become Jay-Z one day. You know, things that white people generally can't do makes it seem as if there are advantages and disadvantages for everyone. Most white people simply have no point of reference of police brutality at all. So when shit goes down with us, they assume he must have done something to deserve it. Because when you get pulled over, you simply show your unsuspended license because you generally can afford to pay for any tickets you get. Your car's not searched. You're not made to exit the vehicle. You don't sit on the curb or run the risk of being shot. You have probably never been verbally abused by the police, let alone hit by the police, stopped and frisked, or had to be made to lay face down on the ground with guns drawn and your drawers down. You have no point of reference. Do you even remember the first time you encountered the police? Some of you might have trouble because it might have been just like losing your virginity, quick and uneventful. But chances are, if you're not white, you do remember. My very first time with the police was when I was 17 years old. I was teaching a friend how to drive a stick shift in the parking lot when we were surrounded by Fairfax County police. Now, I will freely admit that we did steal his mother's car, and it was 12 o'clock at night, but the police didn't know that. And it's nothing unusual for teenagers being out late on Friday night. All right. So here we are, surrounded by 3 squad cars, lights flashing, guns drawn, ordered over the loudspeaker, please exit the vehicle slowly. And we were forced to lay face down on the ground in the middle of winter. I remember looking at my friend who had left his triple fat goose in the car. That's his coat for some white folks who don't know. So now he's laying on the pavement with no coat on, but I don't think it was just the cold air that was making his eyes race back and forth in his head. The next thing I remember, I heard a rack of shotgun. Welcome to Fairfax County, boys. And pointed at our heads. We laid face down in that parking lot until they searched the entire vehicle and gave us some story about a break-in somewhere in the neighborhood. We were told we were free to go as they all pulled away laughing and left us still laying there on the ground in the cold. We drove home in silence. Now, dig the juxtaposition of one of my white friends, you know, black people, the white friend you didn't bring with you tonight. One of my white friends, in his first run-in with the police, he's from Chicago, so I think this is where his story took place. Now, I know that this may be hard for some of you to believe, but there was actually a house party with a lot of underage drinking and weed smoking going on, and there was no black people there. Nor did they even get any of the weed from black people. FYI. Inevitably, wild party, even a white one, the cops show up. They enter the house with the intent to clear the party out. Now my friend who's dressed in a clown costume and is high as all outdoors, underage and drunk, never had an encounter with police before, comes running down the stairs screaming, "This is my house! You don't have a warrant? Get the fuck out! This is my house! Get the fuck out!" That was it. That's the end of the story. That's all the fuck happened. They white! Shit. They respected his whiteness and his privilege and left. And didn't touch the weed, didn't make nobody leave, nothing. Now, take my second encounter with the police. I'm up here, it's Georgetown, summertime. I'm riding with two dudes driving a Jeep, tops off. Now the only thing we guilty of is open containers in the vehicle. And they're guilty of, not me, because I'm in the back seat, I jump out, we bump the bumper traffic. I'm hollering at these girls, all right? So I get the phone number, and then I see the police staring at us. So when I hop back in the back of the Jeep, I tell them, yo, keep the beer down, the police back there, woo. We get to the next intersection. We're surrounded again, 3 squad cars, and we know the routine. And they doing the same damn thing. Guns drawn, get out the car, lay face down on the ground. I'm like, hold up, I've been here before. I have on a fresh white linen suit. I'm not getting down on shit. And I'm like, you better ask this dude for his license and registration, give him a ticket or whatever, because I ain't done nothing to be getting down on this ground. And so, get down on the ground, we're fire. My mama died rich, fuck you. I'm gonna rock this white linen suit. And then they look at each other, they don't know what they're gonna do. Of course, we are standing. I wouldn't advise this to anyone on a dark, lonely road. It's just that it was Georgetown, Saturday night, packed with people, mostly white people. And so the officers then decided that there was a bluff. So one cop comes up to me and he tries to throw me on the ground. Now to this day, whenever my friends tell this story, they say that I slammed a police officer, and I've never corrected him. But I gotta be honest with y'all here today, so I'm being completely honest. I did not slam this police officer. His ass was just clumsy. I pivoted, he failed, okay? And they're like, officer down, and then they rush me. And the dude comes up to me and he punches me in my mouth. And so I'm like, so I punch him back. So we squared off the street. I'm giving him some going, all right? Another cop jump on me, they end up, and I was determined not to fuck up my leather suit. That's all this was. Listen. So I get arrested, they throw me in the squad car, didn't fuck up my leather suit though. I got a little speck of blood, they came out. They put me in the back of the squad car and they beat my ass. Y'all seen Do the Right Thing? They beat my ass like bugging out after Raheem got killed by the police. That shit is real. That's not exaggeration. I've been brutally beat. I didn't know all the time. And when I got all night to tell you all the stories, I'm gonna give you the first. It's kind of like bookends to see how police respond differently to black people. So here's someone hadn't committed a crime, hadn't done anything, was ordered to lay face down on the ground for what? To be a spectacle. And I said that to the white people as I was being arrested. See, y'all are watching this and y'all won't say nothing. Y'all see what's going on, you see what they're doing to us, and y'all won't say nothing. Four Seasons Hotel. You see how it's treated us, and they won't say nothing. Just like what's going on there with the Black Lives Matter movement. Your white privilege and your white silence is consent. Take the case of John Crawford. The young brother was shot in a Walmart in Beaver Creek, Ohio for holding a BB gun he picked up off the shelf in the toy section. Now, besides the fact that Walmart is the largest gun retailer in the country and funds right-wing agendas like ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, shout out to Trayvon Martin, responsible for stand your ground laws, and has an atrocious history with their workers, you would think that black people would stay out of Walmart. But whatever. Walmart bag, Costco good. All right. Okay, you got it? Walmart, Costco good. All right. But the guy's in Walmart. And despite the fact that he actually done nothing wrong or illegal, not pointing the BB gun at anybody, or even turning with the toy gun, pointing towards either officer, and despite the fact that Ohio is an open carry state, he was shot dead on the floor immediately when cops arrived on the scene. Now, the initial report called into 911 by Ronald Ritchie, who maintained that John Crawford had taken a real gun, loaded it, and was pointing at people. While this, of course, was far from the truth, Ronald Ritchie has white privilege. So he still has never been prosecuted or charged for lying to a 911 operator that resulted in death. Now let's take two white men who did take BB guns off Walmart shelves in Post Falls, Idaho. Poor people just can't stay the fuck out of Walmart, but okay. But they loaded the BB guns and then proceeded to shoot the store up. Walmart security officers reported 2 suspicious males in the store to police. Security had never called the police in Beaver Creek because Ronald Ritchie, uncharged white privilege having lying ass called him. Store security saw no need to contact the police since no law had been broken in the Crawford case. But the 2 white suspects were both booked on charges of aggravated assault, discharging a firearm in city limits, and malicious injury to property. But neither one of them was unharmed. And no shots were fired at them. White folks sure is something. He's a cracker, she's a cracker. Wouldn't you like to be a cracker too? At least when the cops come. Now, here's a story that stresses my point on how I learned a lot from white people. Yes, I took notes on white people. When I was 21 years old, I worked at a law firm called Ross, Dixon & Masbach. This law firm was located at 601 Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, the issue with this is that the building was actually on Indiana Avenue. Come to find out that it was 3 buildings with the same exact address. When I inquired about that, I was told that it was common practice for law firms to pay extra for a Pennsylvania Avenue address and for a lobby firm to pay extra for a K Street address. So if you got enough money, you can make a sign on your building and say what the fuck you want to say, to the extent of white privilege will carry you in your city, of course. Or even change history books. Shout out to Texas, Arizona. Footnote, the only building on Pennsylvania Avenue owned by black people is the United Council of Negro Women, and Oprah Winfrey had to use white folks' money to buy it. Now, I get this job, like thousands of other young black people, as part of Man Barrett's Summer Youth Employment Program, where every teenager up to 22 years old is guaranteed a real entry-level job that has the potential for advancement or training. By the way, Chicago gave hundreds of at-risk kids a summer job and violent crime arrests plummeted, which may explain why so few major cities have a summer youth program, because if you privatize prisons, profiting off incarceration and school-to-prison pipelines, it's not in their best financial interest to do something to stem the flood, which explains why crime is down but incarceration is up. Dow Jones. So anyway, I was hired in the mailroom, but was actually doing paralegal work on a mailroom salary. After I completed my summer there, these good, kind white folks hired me for a permanent position. I was young and really liked the job because of the perks. What made the job special to me, besides traveling the city, delivering sensitive documents or serving subpoenas, it was the socialist arrangement that they took to give the appearance of equality. Every month on the last Friday, they would have cocktail parties starting at noon. At 12 noon, we knocked off work, still on the clock, and they had open bars and catered food on every floor. It was supposed to be to celebrate all the birthdays in the month of various employees, but really was an excuse to party. And everyone was really was invited, including the mailroom people and even the cleaning staff. So this is where I was officially introduced to white people. This was the environment where I first observed white folks drinking and socializing. Up until then, I had never had much interaction with white people. Like some of y'all ain't got white friends. But I quickly became well aware that liquor was indeed true sermon. When people start drinking, the facades come down. The inhibitions fade, and they begin to reveal their true selves. A drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts. I remember 3 associate lawyers, fresh out of law school, were talking about how they pissed on the ceiling at a frat party. I was like, how the fuck do you piss on the ceiling? They said, oh, you just hold until you can't hold no more, just let it go! Yes, people, these are the brilliant minds behind our legal justice system. One guy even told me how on a ski trip, some friends were wife swap. He said, yeah, apparently you take all the room keys, you put it in a hat, and then the key you get is the room you go to and you just turn all the lights out. They thought that shit was hilarious. But my fondest memory was at a Christmas party at Blossom. It was like 3 times the size of our monthly events. I was at the bar having drinks with Mr. Ross, who was one of the senior partners at the firm, whose prized possession was his picture of him and Ronald Reagan in his office. Excuse me, I always got spit when I would say Ronald Reagan. He owned considerable property on Balboa Island, which is off the coast of California. It is one of the most expensive real estate markets in the entire country other than Lower Manhattan. So needless to say, he was big money. So here we are, sitting there. He's drunk. I'm listening. Because look at this truth sermon. This millionaire, over 30 years my senior, puts his arm around me and says, young man, I want you to know you're just as good as me. Okay, white man, with your arm around my shoulders. Thank you. No, goddammit, I mean it. You're just as good as me, and don't you forget it. Okay, well, shit, since I make $7.25, why don't you give me a raise? He just laughed and slapped me on the back. You know how they do. Way to go, boy. But for years, I thought long and hard about that. I also like to take this time to thank Marion Barrett for hooking me up with my first white woman. Because later that night, after getting pats on the back from Mr. Ross, no pay raise, I was dancing with the most beautiful secretary, in my opinion, at the firm. She was gorgeous. And yes, she too was drunk. That night she whispered to me, "Can you keep a secret?" I mean, at least it took me 20 years before to tell y'all I couldn't keep it for 20 minutes, some of y'all. So of course I replied, I never kiss and tell. So we started seeing each other, secretly of course. She didn't want anyone to know, so we didn't actually date. She would just slip me little notes here and there, meet me here, meet me there. The park garage, kisses in the elevator, stuff like that. She also has specific instruction to go through the color entry. That's the back door for that white motherfuckers know what I'm talking about. Alright, so I get there and the doorman, a black guy of course, will let me in. Now mind you, I had never been with a white woman before. And here I was, a poor black street kid in the company of a high-class white woman, 7 or 8 years my senior, that could practically have any man she wanted at the time, and I'm in her silk sheets with closed curtains, with Madonna's maxi single CD of Justify My Love on repeat, with 2 condoms on that she made me wear because she was afraid they was going to break. So of course, under the circumstances, the act lasted a lot longer than it normally would have. Plus, I was trying to beast out, get my, my Dingo Warrior on. Now, I'm not saying this is true for all interracial relationships. But sometimes, especially when you have a black dude and a white chick, hook up. There's definitely a jungle fever, historical, power dynamic component to all of this. The white chick be like, is it really true what they say? The black people like, yeah, baby, it's real. It's not a game. So you be fucking like, you gotta represent for the whole entire black race. You can't let your ancestors down. You can't be the one to drop the baton. You can't come up short. You gotta carry the torch and light her ass up. Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power! So I'm in the win, still straight punishing, representing. I remember she was so wet, it was so good, that finally, even with 2 condoms, I just roared as we screamed together. Come and find out, when I got up, I was covered in blood. Silk sheets and blood everywhere like a fucking Godfather movie. I was like, what the fuck? She's trying to OJ me in this shit? Because that was the first time that ever happened to me too. She was like, oh, I'm sorry, I just came on my period, but don't worry, I really loved it, it was so pleasurable. So I get up, wash up, come back, and her bloody ass laying there, passed out. So here I am, sitting there with Madonna's Justify My Love maxi single CD on repeat, with a bloody ass, unconscious white woman knocked out in bed. And I can only imagine how many motherfuckers would got lynched for this shit here. Now, not long after that, she ran off with the CEO of CNA Insurance Company, which is one of the major clients of the firm. He was a much older man, so I guess she just wanted to get fucked one good time before she got married for the money. But what I like most about her, besides the fact that she was very beautiful and very kind to me, is that she would always say, you're going to be a great person one day. You're going to do something. Why are you still here in the mailroom? Now, this was the early 90s, and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was out, and she would always call me her Fresh Prince. I had hair then, okay? But at the time, I was really kind of annoyed by the Fresh Prince reference because I always thought Will Smith was being a little soft, but looking at him now, I couldn't have been more wrong. So in hindsight, she was the very first person in my adult life who saw something in me and then convinced me to see it too. Every time I saw her, she would ask me, you still here? To my first white lover, I'm still here. Now, just suppose those positive experiences that boosted my self-esteem, Black Power, my self-worth, and my confidence with centuries of legal white oppression. Or perhaps a black experience that has adopted and self-imposed white supremacist dogma that often limits your development by telling you what you can't do. That you're either going to be dead or in jail or the army. They call those nigger choices. This is what they told generations of black men. I remember telling my parents once that I wanted to own a restaurant one day. They're like, what do you know about owning restaurants? Just because you cook don't mean you can own a restaurant. You don't know nobody that own a restaurant. Most restaurants fail in the first 2 years. You don't know nobody that own a restaurant. What? You got money to open a restaurant? Just because you can cook, then you own a restaurant? Black people ain't going to support your business. By the time it was finished, I went, well, fuck it then. Dream catchers. Black people are sometimes our own worst enemies and dream catchers. Now, this is coming from the people that love you. And imagine what we get from those who don't. There are pre-described limits on a lot of youth who don't have the support to follow their dreams or the resources to go to college and be in student loan debt for their entire adult lives. Too often in society, we are pre-assigned our positions. I also noticed this when I was at that law firm. Now, this of course is a broad generalization, you know, kind of like racial profiling. Take your average downtown office building. The corner office at the top generally belongs to a white man. His mail and packages are delivered by a black man. His assistant is a woman, and they all eat at an Asian restaurant for lunch. At night, the offices are all cleaned by so-called Latinos, and in D.C., the parking garage is all ran by Ethiopians. This is not a coincidence. It is by design. Social constructs created just like party itself is man-made. In fact, the only time the word black is used positively in the English language when it is in reference to making money, honey. Hence, Black Friday. The accounting terms of being in the red when you're losing money and being in the black when you're making money is a direct reference to slavery in this country. They originally tried to enslave the red indigenous people, but that didn't work, and therefore they lost money. But they grew rich importing black African slaves, or what they like to call old money. At one of these infamous monthly cocktail parties back at the law firm, one of the younger social lawyers was taking a leave of absence to backpack across Europe for an entire year. So we was giving him a proper send-off. I asked him, so where are you going to work while you're in Europe? He said, I'll be too busy traveling to work. I was like, so what you going to do for money? He said, oh, my grandfather left me a trust fund. I got $100,000 when I turned 25. What the fuck is a trust fund? He said, yeah, you know, I got a trust fund, I'm just going to go and find myself. Damn. Now, if you want to talk about inequality, the promise of 40 acres and a mule, no reparations, old money, cotton money, sugarcane money that built Ivy League schools and Duke University. I distinctly remember when my great-grandfather died, my family arguing on how they were going to raise the money to pay for his funeral. And this guy gets $100,000 for his birthday? And I'm sure he wasn't the only grandchild either. Generational wealth and disparity in wealth is very real. Generational poverty is real. Disparity in poverty is very real. But this white boy gets the luxury to enjoy his youth and decide for himself what he wants to do with his life, while our young people are told what to do with theirs. As Lauryn Hill says, the mystery of inequity, the misery of inequity, the history of inequity. And far too many white folks just don't see it that way. Now, before we go any further, I must set the record straight, because I don't want all y'all crackers to think that I hate all white people. That's mighty black of you. Okay, I used to hate all white people. I hate a black man in therapy. But given the historical precedents, how can you blame them? You couldn't really blame Jews for hating Nazis, even though skinheads today ain't have shit to do with the Holocaust. But see, there's an example of white supremacy right there. To say the Holocaust is to insinuate that there was only one Holocaust. And that's bullshit. The massive slaughter of people, there was a Holocaust for every indigenous group on this planet that ever encountered Europeans. But since history is only that which survives, they call manifest destiny an act of civilization. Of course, I'm a survivor of European civilization and the African Holocaust. Now, I'm sure someone out there would say, how can you possibly equate Americans with Nazis? That's mighty white of you. Now see, that's just your bleached white Texas history book version of American history right here. In fact, if you have not read or at least seen A People's History of the United States by the late great Howard Zinn, you are not even qualified to speak about American history, so STFU. Okay? Now, did you know that captured Nazis were treated better than black soldiers fighting for America? And black soldiers would routinely get lynched in their uniforms in America? The so-called enemy was doing business with De Beers Diamonds in South Africa, and several American businesses including Prescott Bush during the war. So whenever black people start hearing white folks talking about American values, you might as well be waving a swastika in front of Jews. Footnote, the swastika ain't even a German creation. It's an ancient symbol used in Africa and Asia, and Hitler just stole that shit. Just like the Americans stole everything they got, and homosexuals stole the damn rainbow. So when we hear you talking about American values, we be like, what values? Rob shit, deny shit, keep shit. Rob shit, deny shit, keep shit. Those are your American values. So, like I said before, I do not hate all white people. Just like Dave Chappelle said, half y'all ain't even white anyway. See $50 million on the table, you will find out who the real white people are. Back in the day, Irish wasn't white, Italians weren't white, Jews weren't, damn sure weren't white. You had to be a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant to be white. But coming to America, the melting pot. All y'all white people gave up on my black ass. Because what is a melting pot? It's a pot that alters the state of everything you put in it to fit into a mold designed by someone else. In other words, to conform, to assimilate, to fit in, to go with the flow, or I dare say be professional. If America truly celebrated diversity, we would be more like a salad bowl. You can slice it, dice it, however you like it. You can add flavor or whatever, but it doesn't change the physical properties of what you put in it. You'll still have radishes, cucumbers, carrots, etc., all in the mix. But if you continue to choose to identify yourself as white, I ain't mad at you. Hell, there are thousands of stories of black people that passed for white that never came back. Imitation of life. So every time I see a white boy on the basketball court that's nice, or a white girl with a fat ass that she didn't pay for, I wonder if Ancestry.com has some news for them. You know Grandma Molly was actually Grandma Shanice. Don't tell nobody. Now here's the story the day I stopped hating white people that identify themselves as being white. Now I'm working at a passport office on K Street. Boring ass job. Only excitement is when you got a passport application from a celebrity. I remember getting Mike Tyson one. I had his number for a while. I was going to call and think I was going to get some free tickets to the fights and shit, but you know, it's no story. So, I'm on my break. I'm in the corner of 14th and K Street. I got my Walkman on. That's a cassette player with mixtapes. Some of y'all young people don't know what the fuck a Walkman is. So I'm standing there. And the white man says walk. I see the white man says walk. See, we have a traffic system that's based upon red light, green light. But for some reason, when you're supposed to walk, it's a white man flashing to tell you to walk. Now in Cuba, they have a green man telling you to walk because why the hell is the white telling you to go? Just footnote. So, but me, listen to the white man, I started walk off the curb because this white man said walk. Before I can move, a white man grabs me on my shoulder. I turn around, trying to give him the full rap about angry black man in therapy. It's like, but before anything comes out my mouth, I feel this big breeze blowing by. And I look, and it's this tour bus that ran the light. Now, had I took one step off that curb, I'd have got smacked in the head. And if I survived that, I would have permanent injuries. Injuries. If I took 2 steps off that curb, I would have been cartoon flat. Only me and this white dude knew what almost happened that day. I never even had a chance to thank him. I turned around and looked at him, and he said, "You're welcome." And I'm standing there, dumbfounded. Now, the angry black man therapy can never say the word, "I hate white people," ever again. Damn, now I can't even hate white people. I mean, I say white, he was straight white. Like, I would have got nervous. I saw his ass in the jury and judging him. I would have got fucking nervous. He wasn't even cool white. All right. But that made me think about white people differently. All right. So, who are the good white people? I realize that America's white supremacist educational system does us all a disservice. It doesn't just omit black history heroes, it omits the white ones as well, if they don't fit the narrow confines of the patriotic narrative of America's imperialist history. Eugene Debs, Emma Goldman, Abby Hoffman, Bartholomew de la Casa, my favorite First Lady, and Aunt Michelle Obama is Eleanor Roosevelt. The political views of Albert Einstein, Frank Sinatra's contributions to civil rights, William Lloyd Garrison, and if you're not familiar with the work of these great people, how do we expect you to appreciate Malcolm X, H. Rod Brown, Francis Fanon, Patrice Lumumba? In fact, if it wasn't for William Lloyd Garrison, the world would have never known the greatness of Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, the famous abolitionist. You hear that? Abolition. Whatever. He was against slavery. DC's own. First black resident in Southeast. Remember that? Southeast was all white. Remember that? Georgetown was all black. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. I translate that to a simple mathematical equation. The amount of shit you can endure is equal to the sum total amount of shit you shall receive. E equals BS squared. Frederick Douglass, the most famous black man in the world during this day, would give his speeches and people would throw shit at him. And he talking about feces particles, I mean clumps of shit. Or he'd be right out attacked by angry white mobs. But he wouldn't run. He would come down from that podium and beat somebody's ass like their name was Rodney King. Look at his pictures. Nobody smiling. He never smiled. Find me a picture of Frederick Douglass smiling. It'd be like trying to find a cop who got convicted of murdering a black and brown person. Good luck with that. But one time during an event commemorating the death of the greatest white man who ever lived, and no, it wasn't Jesus, it was John Brown. And John Brown was black. John Brown's name, Frederick Douglass was thrown down the steps of the Fremont Temple during an event in Boston that he was almost killed honoring that white man. A white man that dared to threaten the institution of white supremacy. What made John Brown very special to me is not only did he give up his life and his sons for the liberation of enslaved people, but he convinced a lot of other people to do the same, including Langston Hughes' grandmother's first husband. Langston Hughes' grandmother's first husband was killed with John Brown. Her second husband later became the grandfather of the Busboys and Poets. Message. Now, can you imagine if John Brown and Nat Turner had hooked up? Django! Ebony and I agree together. Okay. That'll be some serious piano playing for your ass right there. But you know what? I actually used to have two Oscars. You know, like the fighting fish? It was one white, one black. Real talk. I had one white, one black one. I called the white one John Brown. I called the black one Nat Turner. Alright? Now one day I come home, I found out one fish is missing. And I'm like, what did he do? Eat this motherfucker? I'm looking around, but I don't see no evidence of that. Right? Only no bits and pieces in the tank. I'm like, what the fuck? Come to find out, one fish had jumped out the tank and had made it 20 feet to the back door. He had hurled his body into the unknown in a vain attempt to free himself. After which, the surviving fish went on a hunger strike. He was like, man, I lost my comrade, Brian, for him, fuck it. 2 weeks later, he did. Now, if you think the black fish went to the back door, that's your white supremacist having ass right there. So I ain't gonna tell you, you let you figure out which one, but that's a true story, real talk. And ever since then, I don't believe in captivity of any kind. You go to the zoo, that's a prison for animals. Now, as history would have it, John Brown and Freddie Douglass were conspiring together. Douglass turned down Brown's offer to join him in the Harper's Ferry raid, but he did give him financial support. So in fact, Freddie Douglass had to flee the country after the Harper's Ferry went down in fear of being arrested. Big bad motherfucker with brawn, brains, and a former fugitive slave, but while his fist was sometimes saving his black ass, it was his beautiful mind that was actually giving white people the most trouble. You see, because of his eloquence, white people had trouble accepting the fact that he ever actually was a slave. They felt that he spoke too well. And since he never had the scars on his back because he refused to be beaten, he couldn't show the scars that were used to justify his captivity. So they suggested that, he's dumb and shit down, speak a little more, a little more salt, hold the pepper, please. Or should I say, a little more pepper, hold the salt. So, this was, of course, to add to his authenticity. Sounds a lot like a modern-day addition to Hollywood, or very popular advice on a record label. Because real talk, y'all know 2 Chainz, right? 2 Chainz do a lot of ratchet shit. Okay. He graduated with honors, and he was on a Cena Hall show with a song Black Unicorn, featuring a great poem, Sonny Patterson. My homegirl, quick shout out, and he said, quote, "Lyrically, I could be Talib Kweli with gold teeth, but some people have a hard time believing me." Another Negro that speaks so well. Barack Obama, as Harry Reid would say, the light-skinned Negro with no Negro dialect. The election of Barack Obama has really exposed the system of white supremacy and racism in America, like reading the comments section online. One of my mentors is Rock Newman, who was a famous boxing promoter who took Riddick Bowe to the heavyweight championship back in the 90s. He's a very fair-skinned black man that everybody knows is black except for white people that don't know him. And because of this, he has on many occasions been that fly on the wall, in the elevator, on the plane, in the boardroom, etc., etc. And he loves telling the story of him driving from Las Vegas to D.C. after Obama's re-election. And whenever he would stop for gas, he would ask some of the locals a leading question with a very heavy southern drawl. Hey, well, can you believe that goddamn Obama won again? He had some colorful comments, but they will always do this first. They always look first, and then they gave him some realness. He heard quite a few N-words from state to state, from Nevada back to D.C. One time he was in the boardroom negotiating a multi-million-dollar pay-per-view deal for an upcoming fight, and he had just declined a lucrative offer that was made on the table. And at that point, the lead check writer suggested they take a recess, take 5, come back. Now during this time, he pulled Rock aside. He said, "Now Rock, look here. Why did you turn down that deal? That was a good deal. That was more money than you ever gonna see in your life." And Rock was like, "How dare you put limits, prescribed limits on my dreams?" Real life dream catchers. E equals B S squared. White supremacy has created hellish nightmares for people of color's realities all around the globe for centuries and has even gone as far to prescribe the limits of our own dreams. What happens to a dream deferred? My grandfather was a crop duster in North Carolina, who dreamed of one day becoming a commercial pilot. He was part of the great migration from the South and settled in D.C. looking for a better quality of life for him and his family and more opportunities. But unfortunately, he quickly learned that a black man in the 50s with flight experience was no different than a black man without one. To support his family, he had to take a job as a janitor. So once I was in high school with some so-called friends of mine who wanted to go hang out at the Postal Pavilion, I I protested. I didn't want to go because I knew my grandfather worked there. And I didn't want my friends to know that my grandfather swept floors, but we went anyway. Sure enough, while sitting there talking to girls, I saw my grandfather, and he saw me. He smiled and made a beeline in our direction with a broom and a dustpan in his hand. I froze, staring at him. As he walked over, he caught on to what I was trying to say. He just swept the floor, meticulously cleaned off our tables, and he looked at me. I would never forget how he looked at me. He was ashamed that I was ashamed of him. Now, I can tell you the name of anybody who was sitting at that table that I thought was so important to my grandfather. And I will never forget the day that he sacrificed his dignity for my comfort. Because I was ashamed of what he had to do, because of what he had to become in this country to eat and feed his family. And he did that to make his grandson happy at his own expense. He should have been a commercial pilot. He could have been at a national airport. He could have flew planes. He could have went around the world. His grandchildren never got their trust fund. And you want to say, but it's all in the past. That's mighty right of him. Ronald Reagan, the crack president, who later broke the air traffic controllers union by treating them all like Negroes, by firing everyone on strike, only to be honored posthumously by naming the airport after his ass. See, that's the thing about white supremacy. It would treat working class white folks just like niggas. It cuts both ways. White folks love to say, well, most white people didn't own slaves. That's mighty white of you. Because they did not stop a lot of white folks from fighting and dying for the right to, or lynching generations of black people afterwards. But if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't know you picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on, he'll empty his pockets for you. Anyone care to guess what POTUS said that? This is how you get working class white people to vote against their own self-interest and support the 1%'s agenda and perpetuates the cycle of ignorance. Take the film Roadville, 1987, by John Singleton. Now I know due to racial empathy, a lot of white folks don't like films with black directors or majority black cast, but you should still see it anyway. There's a scene where the crackers was on the porch before they went on that murderous lynch mob through town off a false accusation of rape of a white woman. They sit on the porch. White folks sit on the porch, cleaning their guns, getting ready. One white boy says, you know that nigga got himself a piano? I've been working all my life and I ain't got no piano. Hell, boy, you don't know even how to play no piano. That's besides the point. Message. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a nigga by the toe. If he holler, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Do you even remember the first time you said the word nigga? Think about that. The first time I was called nigga, I was 9 years old and skating in the Old Town Alexander. I was skating outside trying to keep up with the big boys and I failed. White dude, he stops to help me out. Another white guy stopped. What are you helping that little nigga for? Right? You just go fuck yourself, pal. You just go fuck yourself, okay? He helps me up. Says, pay no attention to him. He's just ignorant. So I had some balance in my first racial experience. Now, of course, I heard the word before, but I knew instantly that was different. Never forgot that. Old Town, Alexandria. My first encounter with racism. Do you remember the last time you heard the word again? And I'm not talking about singing along with, niggas in Paris, or, as some of these good, wonderful fraternities like to do, blaming on rap lyrics. I'm talking about using the word viciously. The last time I was called nigga, I was still picking cotton in the post office. I was a really quick selling stamps and money orders to mostly bougie residents in Arlington, Virginia. That's the area of D.C. That was real appropriate by Virginia during the Civil War. Anyway, I was coming from the back retrieving someone's mail, packages or whatever. And as I was approaching the front counter, still unseen by the general public, I could hear in earshot a white customer at the window using the word loosely. And he was, unbeknownst to him, talking to my Puerto Rican co-worker that he obviously thought was white. When I made my entrance on the window, I gave him a look to confirm I heard everything he said and was daring for him to say it. Just one more time, say it one more time. I will come across this motherfucker. He leans into my co-worker and whispers something, who promptly responds, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Would you like to repeat that again? Puerto Ricans are very hard to hear with all the loud music we play in our halls. That redneck turned beet red and walks out saying, I see you got yourself a goddamn rainbow coalition in here. I gave him the finger as he walked out. Now, working at that post office in Arlington, one of the wealthiest counties in the entire country, by the way, was itself another education. Now, I remember the day I got fired. I mean, not the day I got fired, but the day leading to the day I got fired. Now, you see this white lady was sending a care package to her son. He was about to be shipped off to Iraq. Turned out she was a congresswoman's wife, but something like that. But I did not know that, but it would have made a difference anyway. So she was one of those talkative ass customers, like tell you all this business. But she made this offhandedly remark that I couldn't let ride. She said, I wish they would take all these heirs and send them back to where they came from. Right there, I immediately thought about my great-grandfather at that very moment. My great-grandfather lived to be a very old man. And my mother, who grew up in his house, would often go over to cook and clean for him. Now, this particular day, she left me his care while she was shopping. Now, while I was there, he had a visitor. Now, I'm a child, so I don't remember, exactly who it was. The guy had on a utility bill, so, it was phone company, gas company, whatever. So the guy comes, knocks on the door, and my grandfather opens the door. And they have a conversation. And I hear my great-grandfather talking like I never heard it before. He was saying, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. And I knew instantly, even as a child, 7, 8 years old, that what the fuck is wrong with you? Now the white man was nice. The white man was like, Mr. Lewis this and Mr. Lewis that. And my grandfather still going, yes, sir. No, sir. Now imagine, 6'5", white man, half his age, half his size, on his porch, and he's bowing down to this motherfucker. And it took me years to realize what was going on. My great-grandfather had been conditioned on what to do, what to say, what not to do, what not to say to white people his entire life, even if they were standing on the porch of his house in North Carolina. He lived his whole life watching what he said around white folks. So I immediately had that flashback when this white woman said that slick shit. Because I could let it go. I could pretend I didn't hear it, kept my good plantation job. It's like a lot of y'all would have done if you was in Eric Snowden's position on the beach with a 6-figure salary. Would you have said something? Would you have done something? Or would you still be alone with sand between your toes? So I had to make sure I set this woman straight. So when she said that sick shit that I couldn't let go, I told her, you know, you need to be more careful. Because that was a very racist statement you just made. She was like, what do you mean racist? I'm not racist. I didn't say you was a racist. I said the statement of sending all the Arabs back to where they came from sounds an awful lot like go back to Africa. She was like, oh no, I'm not talking about black people. I'm just talking about the terrorists. Black people love America. Now mind you, this all happened during the Bush-Cheney regime, okay? And I tell her, with a straight face, not all black people love America. She's like, what do you mean? You know black people when you tell white people no? You ever done that?
Yes.
You know, a lot of times they be like, what do you mean? I mean, no, motherfucker. See, sometimes white supremacy has a problem with computing that. No. I said, I don't love America. She couldn't believe that someone could work in the post office and not love America. I told her it's not in my job description. I sell stamps, money orders, and mail packages. Will there be anything else for this? You know, patriotism, the last refuge of scoundrels, i.e. Emma Goldman, wasn't a prerequisite in my application. Needless to say, that did not go over very well. Now, do y'all guys remember where y'all were when 9/11 happened? Now, when 9/11 happened, that was a beautiful day. I see some of y'all twisted when I say it's a beautiful day. How many people died on 9/11? 3,000-4,000 people?
Yes.
Okay. In Africa, Asia, and Latin America, 25,000 people die every single day simply because they don't have access to clean water. And I don't think that information has canceled any of your fucking parties. So when I say that it was a beautiful day, that's what I meant. I remember turning on TV and I saw this couple holding hands in a burning building, fire beneath them, no way out, no way down. And they kissed. And jumped together. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I remember going to my friend's house, who was having a party and shit. We thought the world was coming in, so we partied. And I'm somewhere downtown. And I saw a white man with suits and briefcases running down the street screaming. And I saw a black bike carrier with his feet kicked up, smoking a joint in the middle of the fucking park. Like, ain't nobody gonna fuck with me today. And he was right. That too was beautiful. It was beautiful because it was a wake-up call. At least I thought it was. Unfortunately, it was a wake-up call for the military-industrial complex and Halliburton and Dick Cheney and a lot of people who believe a lot of bullshit because that was an inside job. Look who benefited. But before I got fired from that post office, losing my last job, making anti-war statements, and before my job with Manbury Somebody Employment Program, my first job was actually a 411 Director Assistance Operator. That was before Google. You would actually dial 411 for information. And you would be surprised when lonely ass women would be trying to holler at you on 411 information. That's another story. But that was a company which didn't own the C&P telephones, later became Bellland, which you now know as Verizon, aka NSA. Now, I was 19 years old, paying my way to UDC, and you know, doing what I had to do, full-time job, full-time student. Now, it was an interesting work environment because they was on strike. That's the only reason why they hired us. So I'm a scab employee. So to prevent us having to walk across picket lines, they would have catered food for free. Big screen TV in the break room. Unlimited overtime. I come to work 15 minutes late. I'm sorry, I'm late. Hey, don't worry about it. I'm too glad you're happy. You know, just glad to see you, dog. Like, whole different power dynamic. That was education. So, you know, I'm having breakfast, lunch, and dinner here. All overtime I can get. So one day, I'm in the break room on one of my mini breaks. And a news flash comes on. And it says something like, controversial civil rights leader Howard Huey P. Newton was killed today in a drug-infested area in Oakland, California, about the morning news, etc. And immediately, this older black woman, she started crying. Now, this is during the height of the crack, Ronald Reagan epidemic. So, black people getting shot was no thing. It was happening every week, so I wasn't affected. And so I just asked her, I said, did you know him? She's like, no. I'm like, damn. Who the fuck was Huey P. Newton? I saw her go from grieving to rage like that. This is 1989. Fight the power, public enemy, do the right thing. I'm rocking an African medallion. She stood up. It's like, you are wearing this, and you don't know who Huey P. Newton is? She snatches off my neck, throws it on the ground, stomps it out, and tells me in my face, you don't know shit. You need to read a book. You need to go to school. You need to do something because you don't know shit. And stormed out. Now mind you, this is a room full of free food and a big screen TV, so this is not a private conversation. It's a room full of people. And it was the most embarrassing moment of my entire adult life. And I had to stand there, feeling sure that a midget on his knees sitting on the curb, scratching his head, why do I not know this man? Why have I never read a book that no one had made me read? How did I go through 12 years of so-called school, 2 years of college, and not know this? That, too, is by design. And that is when I made a commitment to begin to educate myself. Became an autodidact. That's self-taught for those of you who got degrees and don't know what the fuck autodidact means. Shout out to all those who got student loan debt. Now, do you remember the darkest person you ever seen? I mean, in life. In life. The blackest person you ever seen. Picture it. Yes. Look at it. The blackest black man I've seen was a blue, black, purple motherfucker walking through the campus of UC. Now, at that time, I was still falling behind the Gucci crew, the Polo crew, because I thought it was so cool. We all hang outside, what we would call the yard. Now, we out there, blackest black man, purple motherfucker, walking through the plaza. And this crew is African Buddhist guy, all falling all over this thing. One dude even jumped in front of him. Guess what this is? They're like, what? My shadow. All of them laughing. I didn't laugh. This brother, blue black, 6'5", was walking regally through the plaza, unaffected by this chanting mob of ignorance. And in hindsight, with all these people falling over laughing, it seems that they was bowing down to him.
Welcome back to the Tom Hartman program. I'm Danielle, here with Shano, sitting in for Tom today. We are just waiting on our guest, Kimon Freeman. So in the meantime, I say we'll jump to a few more of your calls. I wanted to check in with Richard in Hollywood, Florida, my hometown, actually, listening on Sirius Radio. Richard, thanks for listening to the Tom Hartman program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I tell you, I'm an angry black man, and let me tell you why. Because there's not enough shows or there's not enough exposure for black people in the black community of shows like this. It's amazing, and I live in the black community, And when it comes to conservatives, most blacks believe that conservatives are racist in the black community. Not all, but most. And the reason they believe that because of some of the things that they see on television, whether it's Fox News or some of that other stuff that we see on television. I'm an advocate, and I'm it may sound funny, but I'm an advocate to people, especially black people, to know that every white person is not the same. But I must tell you, conservatives really give white people a bad name.
I know we're painting with a broad brush with comments like that, Richard, but it just came out this week that the Republican Party is 95% white. 95%. That is astonishing, and it makes it kind of easy to understand why we get to broad brush conclusions like the ones you're mentioning.
I mean, I had a black young man, a friend of mine. He was talking to me, and he watched Fox News. He watched a lot of different shows. He watched Fox News, and he told me, he said, it seems as if that conservatives actually believe that black people are just almost ignorant. Some of the things that you see on Fox News and some of the things that they say, but they continue to say it's not racist to say some of the things that they say. But in the black community, they're looking at it and saying, so I guess what I'm saying is, I love Tom Hartman. I love this show, and I'm always telling my friends to please listen, because we need to hear this. We need to hear that we're not in this all by ourselves. And so I just wanted to tell you guys, I really commend you and just love what you're doing. I can't wait to hear the author coming up for that book.
Yeah, it's actually a show, Richard, and he's here. He's in studio. He'll be with us in just a second, Kamon Freeman. But, sometimes it takes somebody being willing to talk about those terms that somebody has made into a bad word. That what's wrong with being angry in the situation that we find ourselves where you just had the Urban League report I was telling you about, where, black Americans dealing with 72% of the equality of a white American. Why wouldn't somebody be angry about that? Why not? And we have the one, the only, let's see if we're ready here, live radio and TV, Kamon Freeman, award-winning activist, playwright, co-owner of We Act Radio, guerrilla artist on Twitter, part of the recent delegation to Cuba.
Yeah, man.
And the star of his one-man show, ABMIT Whites Only. I love the description of this show so much. I read it to Shane and said, we have to go and see it. What happens when a millennial black man, activist, artist, father, radio producer talks to and about white folks unfiltered on stage? Kamon, tell us about it.
Peace and blessings. Thank you for having me. We love it. We love it.
Absolutely.
Basically, coming off the heels of the Black Lives Matter movement, and since that, obviously, forensic pathologist expert testimony, videotape murder, community of witnesses, a black attorney general, a black president can't get one indictment for police murders. We were looking for a way to escalate the Black Lives Matter movement, and I felt that one of the arenas that this need to be fought in is in the realm of art and culture. And so this is a manifestation of that. A lot of times, most white people are not racist themselves because they don't know how to identify it. So when they hear someone say white supremacy, they say, well, I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not skinhead.
They think KKK extreme
right.
examples.
And that's an extreme example. What we're talking about is more 21st century manifestations. So when you see a Latino movie with a Latino cast, a Latino director, that's for Latino audiences. When you see an Asian cast with an Asian director, that's an Asian film for Asian audiences. But if you see an all-white movie, all white producers, all white directors, all white writers, white everything, that is just a film for everybody.
Excellent
That's white
point.
supremacy, and that's what we're talking about. And that is the lens that we sometimes see the world, and we need to start to address that.
For the last half hour or so, one of the points I've mentioned on, and this is just a personal issue for me, that our society has turned this phrase, angry black man, into a pejorative, into some type of insult. And I find I have a problem with that it's okay to be angry. I don't care who you are in today's society. If you're happy with the status quo, then you might need to explain things to me because I'm missing it. And I think that phrase is powerful. It's a good thing. And that's how we start to change.
Absolutely. And let me just say this. I hate that it's necessary for me to say this, but white supremacy dictates that. If you feel some kind of way when someone says Black Lives Matter, yes, of course, all lives matter. But unfortunately, we're in a system where they allocate funds to the greatest military-industrial complex in the world, and yet people are dying in their cars or bridges collapsing. So in that regard, they don't think all lives matter.
Right.
And apparently the police and the media and the courts and the judicial system and the criminal justice system doesn't think that all lives matter. So we are focusing on the ones that are being lost. Mm-hmm. And I just want to shout out our sister, Dr. Stacey Patton. I don't have a quote in front of me, but she has written a very insightful, I think the most concise examination of white supremacy in an article entitled "Loving Whites Won't Fix Racism."
I believe I read it. It was cross-posted at Alternate. If anybody wants to check it out, it's over there.
That's it. And we people owe it to ourselves to begin to examine this type of information. That's Dr. Stacey Patton. Also, Tim Wise is a wonderful white brother who's dedicated his life to addressing and dismantling on white supremacy. Because in the cornerstone, that is fundamentally the problem of the world, because there's a color caste system in every society, in every part of the globe. And that's a manifestation there. So white supremacy is practiced primarily by people who are not themselves white.
I want to touch on your show, which people can still check out. It's March 26th at Busboys and Poets at 14th and V, and April 4th in Hyattsville, where I believe Shane and I will be
That's
attending.
Be the big one.
Yeah,
the
we
Howard
are
Zinn
so
room.
excited.
I'm
so
trying
excited.
to challenge the people speak in that production, and Howard Zinn was a big it had a big impact on my life.
I know how involved you are in so many different ways. And I know all of the stuff that you post, that you're constantly working on. How did you find time to create this show, put it together, get it on stage?
Well, angry black man in therapy, and the therapy is a lot of red wine. A lot of Jesus juice went into funneling the ancestors in this. And basically, it is also therapeutic to get things off your chest, if you will. Rather than screaming at your television, incoherently screaming across the radio airways, I wanted to have a conversation that I think that has yet to have been had, and we just need to, look at it. And I tell some vivid stories. This is not all meat and potatoes. There's a lot of, humor in this, because we need to laugh at ourselves sometimes. I think we laugh to keep from crying. And I try to, embody all of that. And I tell some stories of how I've seen racism and experienced white supremacy in my life, manifested by other people, other than white people, of course. And it's just, the only thing I regret in doing this is that when I entitled it Whites Only, because that's my goal to speak to an all-white audience, I didn't realize just how difficult it would be of attracting a white audience. And so a lot of my black friends was like, well, no one's white is going to come. And I said, well, why don't you just bring one of your white friends? And they're like, I don't have any. And I was like, now how are you going to talk about white people? How do you know anything? You know what I'm saying? You don't even know any white people, And, so it's, so I'm a little disappointed in doing this production with an all black audience with a few white people sprinkled here that's brave enough to come out. But I just want you to know that I'm not beating up on white people. We're beating up on the institutional white supremacy. So it's not like I'm calling someone out. In fact, a white guy saved my life. So there's if anything, it's someone who, do you ever see the movie with Ed Norton, American History X?
Yes.
I think that's a concise examination of how you make someone into a racist and then just start to dismantle that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I'm tapping into, because not that black people can possibly be racist people. Racist means that I am somehow affecting your forward movement and upper mobility in life because of my prejudices.
Yeah.
So unless I'm doing that, I'm not a racist, But with having said that, I at one time was the typical I hate white people person until I had a few experiences that made me come in grips with that. And so we confuse with hating a white supremacist institutional system with the people that we see walking down the street. And as Lyndon B. Johnson would have said, if you give the lowest white man something to look down on, if you make him feel as if he's better than the best black man, he won't notice that you picking his pocket. If you give him something to look down on, hell, he was empty his pockets for you. And that is how we get a lot, 99% white folks to vote against their own self-interest in the hopes of identifying with the 1%.
Yeah, creating the other. We have a quick 4-minute Free Speech TV break if you want to do some special extra commentary for our Free Speech TV audience.
Free speech.
1 second. Let's run to a quick break. Kimon Freeman, check it out. ABMIT Whites Only.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Find out all the information and RSVP for your show. I'm talking to you, white people, at popularresistance.org. Welcome back. I'm still here with Kimon Freeman, the star of the one-man show, A Black Man in Therapy, Whites Only, challenging white people to come out and see it again. March 26th at the Busboys and Poets at 14th and V, April 4th in Hyattsville, Maryland, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern each day. $10 RSVP, and you can check it out at popularresistance.org. Kimon, you are one of my favorite people to talk to in general, but especially when it comes to issues like this that are hard-hitting, because you're not afraid to speak truth to power. Is that what people can expect to see in the show? Absolutely.
A new point of view. For instance, let's take the Mike Brown case. We're all familiar with it, but we've only seen it through the lens of a particular six corporation's view. Mm-hmm. Let's just take the lens of race off of it and just use our common sense. Okay, you're a young guy. You stole some cigars or whatever, and everyone has stole something in their entire life unless you're Mother Teresa. And you're walking down the street, and a cop is not stopping you. He's just telling you, hey, get out the street and walk on the sidewalk. So you decide, based upon that, to attack the officer, to go for his gun, despite you going to college in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it sounds totally plausible.
You want to end it right here. Let's get it on right here, you know? And so you get shot in the process of going after the cop's gun. So you take off running. Now, you start to run, and about 30 or 40 feet, while he's still shooting at you, you decide, I want to turn around and change my mind and charge the officer who is shooting at me in a football tackle position from 30 or 40 feet away. Yeah. That's only plausible if you're a believer of white supremacy institutions. There are so many examples like that. That one was one, I think, that grabbed national attention because for so many of us, it was so cut and dried, where the narrative from the institutions just didn't seem plausible, and still don't. Right. And let me explain something to all the listeners that would say, well, he was violent, he was big, he was scary, he got to look like a demon. His pecs are sagging, all that. He's dark-skinned, all that, all the stereotypes. Let me read this for them. This is an excerpt from the play. Martin Luther King Jr. wore suits, loved Jesus, and embraced nonviolence, spoke the Queen's English, had a top-notch education, said grace before he ate, and said his prayers before he went to sleep. However, none of that spared him white supremacy's wrath. And that is because white supremacy is neither rational nor moral. It cannot be calmed or reasoned with. It cannot be coddled or soothed. It doesn't play nice. There's no behavior that you can display that would temper its rage against your existence. It doesn't care about the red bottoms on your shoes or the length of your skirt or the hook of your hoodie or the sag of your pants. And while you believe that respectability is a way in which you can exercise control over the uncontrollable, your belief is a misnomer, a sideshow, a distraction, an illusion, cognitive dissonance. White supremacy means to extinguish your light simply because it shines, point blank in the story. And so, therefore, we have a world where college frat boys singing about hanging Negroes get police protection, and black people screaming Black Lives Matter get arrested. Yeah, I mean, we just saw in Jackson, Mississippi, where my father, at one point in his life, his father was stationed there because the military said it was the most racist place he'd ever been in his entire life. Where was this? Jackson, Mississippi. And we just saw an actual lynching, and they put the victim's mugshot up to identify him. Is that right? And the words of Nina Simone, Mississippi, God damn. Yeah, exactly. Come on. Real quick footnote. Ronald Reagan, their favorite president, actually launched his presidential campaign in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and that's only known for one thing:
Racism.
2 dead Jews and a black guy in the backseat.
Tom talks about that all the time. Kamon Freeman, everybody, a black man in therapy.
I have the nerve to wave.
Because surely this is a time when our collective efforts to devise approaches to the problems that still afflict us is more important than ever. Indeed, it is a time for wisdom. For yet again, the family of a young black man is grieving a life cut short. Yet again, the streets of an American city are marred by violence, by shattered glass and shouts of anger and shows of force. Yet again, a community is reeling, its fault lines laid bare, and its bonds of trust and respect frayed. Yet again, brave police officers have been attacked in the line of duty. What we have seen in Baltimore should, indeed, I think does, tear at our soul. From Ferguson to Staten Island to Baltimore, the patterns have become unmistakable and undeniable. Walter Scott, shot in the back in Charleston, South Carolina. Unarmed, in debt, terrified of spending more time in jail for child support payments he couldn't afford. Tamir Rice, shot in a park in Cleveland, Ohio. Unarmed and just 12 years old. Eric Garner, choked to death after being stopped for selling cigarettes in the streets of our city. And now, Freddie Gray. His spine nearly severed while in police custody. Not only as a mother and a grandmother, but as a citizen, a human being, my heart breaks for these young men and their families. We have to come to terms with some hard truths about race and justice in America. There is something profoundly wrong when African American men are still far more likely to be stopped and searched by police, charged with crimes, and sentenced to longer prison terms than are meted out to their white counterparts.